So, this is what God is saying. He hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but He's given you a spirit of love, a spirit of power, and He's given you a sound mind. Any message that comes to you that engenders fear, that promotes fear, and encourages you to be paralyzed with fear is not from God. Any message that comes from God, when God speaks to you, will fill your heart full of faith and courage and love and victory. Any message that comes from God will allow you to see anything is possible, that all things are possible, and that there is nothing to fear. Because when you have a spirit of love and power, and the actual living Word of God inside you, there is nothing in this world that you need to fear. You don't need to fear economic collapse. You don't need to fear disease or sickness. You don't need to fear governments. Because you have life, unrestricted, unlimited life, contained in your inner being, deep within your spirit, waiting to be unlocked. And I sometimes see folks saying, oh, pray for this disaster, pray that something changes about this disease, or pray that God will heal this person and help that person. Now, I'll tell you something that you can pray for. Pray that the eyes, your inner eyes will be opened up, that you might be able to see who you really are and what you really contain. Pray for yourself, that your eyes would be opened internally to see the riches you contain, to see the life that you contain. Stop worrying about what's going on the outside of you. Start concerning yourself what's going on inside you. And the greatest prayer you can pray is the prayer to discover the riches that are hidden deep within you. Where God dwells deep in the inner recesses of your inner being, in a hidden form. But it's not something that is meant to stay hidden. That light is meant to explode on the inside of you, where your inner being is filled with light. And when you start to understand who you are, you'll be filled with courage, you'll be filled with love, you'll be filled with faith, because the life that is in you is unlimited. So let me say again, you have nothing to fear, because you haven't received a spirit of fear. You've received a spirit of love and of power and of a sound mind. So stand up on the inside and start believing in who you were created to be. Take back your inheritance. Don't let someone enslave you to something you are not. Discover who you really are. God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love, a spirit of power, and a sound mind. There is nothing to fear. And that's what God is saying. Do not fear. His Spirit's inside you. His life is inside you. And if you're going to pray, pray for that life to be unlocked to your eyes. You want a revelation of His life inside you. And when Jesus said things like, "He who believes in me, out of his innermost being, out of his belly, will flow rivers of resurrection life, rivers of living water." That's what He was talking about, having your insides opened in order that that life would flow forth. Because we're not called to just live out of the natural concept or natural idea of who we are. The highest calling and most wonderful thing in life is to discover who you are deep down inside, where God lives, where Christ lives, in the deep inner recesses of your being, because you really are a temple of God. And your life is not meant to be hijacked by outside forces. whether it be governments or media, which always try to enslave you with fear. That's how the whole world system works. And that's how religion works. Fear. They'll try to promote the idea that if you don't believe their particular message or their brand of whatever religion they hold to, whether it be Christianity, Islam, or some other religion, that you'll end up in some internal hell. This is fear. This is not what God is like. God doesn't confine people to eternal torture chambers and never let them out. That's a message, a fear-based message. Likewise, the world systems and the media, always the underlying thing is fear. And fear of not being accepted if you don't conform. But when you have a spirit of life released within you, the river of life, you're truly rich. You discover true riches, because true riches are within. The kingdom of heaven, the life of heaven is within you. Heaven is not a place that you go to when you die. Heaven is a place that you discover within you, your true self. Again, your eternal being, the God part of you that God created, where God has impregnated himself within you, waiting for you to discover who you really are. So don't pray about outs. You don't really need to pray. The highest form of prayer is praying in order to discover the riches that you contain, your true self, where God dwells. And not a prayer of manipulation where you try to make God do what you think you want, but a prayer of submission, where your soul surrenders, where your mind and heart begins to surrender to the light that starts to break forth from within you. And you start to discover your true inner self. And it's from your true inner self in the light of God. This is where faith arises. This is where love, a spirit of love and power and victory comes forth from. Your new creation being. And my message is primarily today to those who know they're called. Those who know they have that connection to God. The children of God, the sons of God, the sons and daughters of God who have been quickened and made alive. Go deep within. Let that be your prayer of intercession. Let that be your prayer for you to discover who you really are and grow strong and eat from those pure spiritual riches that abide within you. This is what it means when Jesus talked about breaking bread. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood. He's not talking about an outward thing. He's talking about discovering the life of God within you in order that you'd grow strong spiritually in spiritual riches and become the man or woman you were created to be, full of light, full of power, full of victory. This is who you really are. This is heaven being released within you. This is what the whole of the scriptures is about. You discovering your true God connection, your true self in God, discovering real redemption, that you are one with God. This is what the cross is about, where the old identity was removed in death and then brought forth in resurrection your true self. A true resurrection man, incorruptible, your incorruptible self coming forth out of the womb of your deep inner recesses of your being, in which you're unaware of. Your mind might be in the grave right now where you're unaware of your true self. But when you're awakened on the inside and your consciousness wakes up and fills with light, you step forth from the grave in resurrection life. These are deep mysteries, but not beyond our grasp. These are things that are revealed. So God hasn't given you a spirit of fear. He's given you a spirit of life, a spirit of love, and a sound mind. And you can overcome all things because you have the answer inside. And that's where you're to look. So yes, we have this spirit of life within us, and out of our inner being flows rivers of dynamic living water. And in this living water is joy and peace and victory. And we're eating resources. Our food isn't just stuff on the outside. Our food is the food of heaven, being broken within us, consuming us, and causing our hearts to be fully satisfied with joy and peace and laughter. And that's really what living is all about. Abundance. Pure abundance flowing from the inside of you. And that's what every one of us is coming into right now. Some of us might have to go through a few trials to realize it, a few difficult circumstances to realize it. But don't fear when you're going through a difficult time or a difficult situation. Realize this is an adventure. Life really is an adventure in this world. Just think, when you're in a difficult situation, or things are not working for you, or everything is collapsing around you, that's an opportunity for you to connect with the riches that you contain and appropriate them and to use them and to prove whether or not they work. To prove whether or not they work. And they do work. Because it is an adventure. This is an adventure, an amazing adventure. Life is an amazing adventure of discovering riches and bringing the kingdom of heaven which is in you out into the world. Those spiritual riches flowing out of you, these rivers of living water flowing out of you, flooding the earth with peace, life and joy and victory, and putting death and sickness underneath us, destroying it. So be encouraged, brothers and sisters. There's nothing to worry about. Everything is very good. Very good. Victory.